Jim, so when you hear what Silva just spoke about, I mean, obviously austerity, reforms, that's going to be the second bailout we're talking about now. Do you think...
Christine, it's a third, a fourth, a fifth.
Well,
you know, every time I come here, we're talking about Greece.
But do you think it's going to be this year where we're going to see Greece leave the Eurozone?
No, I don't think we're going to see anybody leave the Eurozone in 2012. We're going to have more problems in 2012. But there are 40 elections around the world in 2012, Christine. Governments everywhere are going to be doing their best to make sure we get through the election. Maybe 2013, you should be panicked. Certainly by 2014, you should be panicked. 2012, I think, will be okay. No, I mean, better, not okay.
Okay, so we know last year you were shorting stocks over in the Eurozone. Does 2012 mean there could be a slight change in strategy on your part then?
No, I'm still short European stocks, and I'm still long the euro. I'm wondering why I'm short European stocks.
Why are you short European stocks?
Since they've been going up in January. But no, I'm still short European stocks.
What news would you like to hear for you to start buying European stocks again?
Oh, I would love for them to say, okay, it's a disaster. Everybody's going to take big losses. Banks, bondholders, shareholders of the banks, they're going to all take big losses. We're going to start over. Everything would collapse. I would buy all the euros I could, and I would buy all the stocks I could. I don't think it's going to happen quite that way.
Jim,
in terms of this 3-year facility, allowing the banks to take lower collateral was a big help.
It was a big help, and it really relieved a very serious credit crunch that was developing in the banking system. It did not solve the problem of the heavily indebted countries that now are in the position of a third world country that is too heavily indebted in a foreign currency because they don't control the central bank.
How does this play out, George?
Well, it actually could eventually prepare the ground for a breakdown of the euro if the financial system of each country becomes much more self-contained. But that's not really where they want to go.
Why are the powers that be so reluctant to just allow Greece to get pushed out of the euro?
Resolve the problems that we're facing right now. Is the IMF going to contribute more?
The IMF is in one particular line of business, which is to work with the country and with our partners, the European Commission and the ECB, on the adjustments that Greece must produce to contribute to a global package that will bring the country back to a debt-to-GDP ratio of 120 by year 2020. It's very, very simple from my point of view. The country has to do lots of things: structural adjustment, fiscal consolidation. It has to be stretched over the right period of time. Others may need to contribute according to keys that belong to them, not to the IMF. Our objective, and I'm riveted to that, it's 120% debt to GDP ratio.
Given the fact that the economy, the Greek economy, has been performing even worse than some of the forecasts were suggesting last year, do you not think it's inevitable that the EU and also perhaps the IMF will have to put in more cash to help it in the second bailout program?
As I said, we are riveted to the objective. We are currently on the ground working with the Greek authorities, working on the performance of last year, the last quarter. We're not terribly optimistic and positive about what has been done. There are reasons for that. But we want to put together a program that works for the country. Financing will have to come along.
What more needs to be done?
I know you'd like me to say so, but I'm telling you that my objective, and I'm riveted to that, is 120% debt to GDP ratio, thereabout.
And looking at the debt swap talks that
But I think in the U.S. we often feel much more pessimistic. What's your...
well, Andrew, I think that a turning point, history will judge whether it was the turning point, occurred in mid-December when the ECB took that very aggressive, American-like step, lending 450 billion euros over 3 years, not short-term, over 3 years, against a much wider pool of collateral than it previously had accepted. And not only did, of course, that provide liquidity to the banking system, which based on the borrowings that the banking system had from the ECB at that point was very important, but of course it signaled that the ECB was prepared to be more aggressive than people had seen in the past, or seen recently, and the presumption was we'll do more if necessary. And that step, which as I say was a very American-style step, Fed-like step, calmed markets, has resulted, I think, more than anything else, in the lowering borrowing costs that we're seeing for the moment for Italy and Spain. We'll see if it lasts.
Has it created a false sense of optimism?
First, they have to discover what the right subjects to discuss are. This summit is destined to fail because they are talking about the wrong things. They're talking about a treaty for European fiscal integration, which will do a lot of good 2 or 3 years from now when it finally gets implemented, but it won't help the current circumstances. And they don't really have anything of traction to say about Greece. The leaders were invited to sit in on the Greece talks to try and knock some heads together, but they refused to do so. So I don't know what they're going to talk about today, but I can't imagine anything on their agenda that I know of anyhow that's likely to make anybody feel better about the situation tomorrow.
But what would make you feel better? What would be on the agenda that would make you feel better?
Put money on the table. Fund EFSF, the European Bailout Fund, the Financial Stability Fund. Fund it now with 300 billion euros, the same amount of money the ECB printed in December, and put that money on the table so everybody knows that no bank will be allowed to fail, that every bank is safe. They have to protect the banks. Anything they do to protect the banks is good. Any opportunity they miss to protect the banks is bad.
Because you see a pending banking crisis.
Well, it's not just me. I mean, everybody in the world is looking at the challenge that the banks have to reach a capital adequacy ratio by June. That's 9%. Nobody even knows where they are right now. And we know from banks like UniCredit, we've seen other banks, Monte de Paschi de Siena has been out there with trouble. Commerzbank has been out there. Banks are having trouble getting to that hurdle. And these are the best, strongest banks, not the little ones we don't know anything about. There clearly has been a catastrophic destruction of wealth in Europe caused by repricing of bonds. That's got to hurt the banks. Somebody has to protect the banks.